welcome to Geeking Poetic Podcast.
Where what will go wrong, will go wrong.
What's up? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Geeking Poetic Podcast. And this is yet another movie review. And we're pretty excited to talk about this one. It was a fun romp.
Very fun romp, man.
Of a film that...
We were all cracking up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the movie that we went and saw was...
Ant-Man and The Wasp.
We tried to get tickets for Mamma Mia, but they were all sold out, so...
Yeah, that sucked.
We had to settle for this one.
Mamma Mia. Man, I love me some ABBA, but fuck Mamma Mia. Oh, I actually sat down once and tried to watch a little bit of the first one. You know, because I love ABBA. I really do. I mean, ABBA's awesome. I grew up on ABBA, but holy shit, that movie's bad.
There's more than one?
Well, there's the new one. That's
one,
like, it's a prequel.
Is it?
Yeah, sort of sorts. I think it's supposed to tell in the original movie. Why the fuck are we talking about Mamma Mia?
I don't know.
Well, in the original movie, anyway.
The joke just turned hilarious.
Right, went to a whole rant.
Yeah, Meryl Streep's character, it's the whole thing that there were like 3 different men that could be the father of her daughter, or something like that she had these past flings or whatever.
It needs to be a Maury then.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was...
Not a musical.
Yeah, it was... So anyway, this gets into that, like, how did you meet them or whatever, from what I understand. Fuck this movie. I only know this from shit because I read a lot. I read a lot of magazines. I watch a lot of bullshit on the internet, like this show, you know, internet bullshit. And yeah, I thought maybe I would be interested in it because it's ABBA. I fucking love ABBA. Like, big time. But boy, they ruined the fuck out of ABBA. ABBA is so metal compared to that fucking Mamma Mia movie. Oh my god.
Wow, we went off the rails real quick.
Yeah, well, so we got that shit out of the way. Thanks for bringing up Mamma Mia, Vito. Thanks
that
for
was a hot topic.
Ant-Man and the Wasp is apparently it's the last Marvel Cinematic Universe, MCU. We'll say it that way from now on. I'm sure everybody knows what MCU stands for, but just in case. The last one of 2018, I think. I know there are other Marvel-related movies that are supposed to be coming out soon, like Venom, which I'm actually looking forward to. Some other stuff, but they're not Disney. They're not part of this, you know, this
franchise.
Yeah, this universe. Yeah, so it has no bearing on what's going on in Avengers world and all that stuff, which we'll get into that obviously a little bit. Yeah, so like we usually do, I mean, we may as well just you kind of gave it away a little bit with saying how much we were laughing, but before we get into all the details, what did we think?
Well, let's start with spoilers, shall we?
Yeah, I guess
always forget that part.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, if you don't know, this is a spoilerific episode of our movie reviews. Yeah, we love spoilers. I love spoilers.
Spoiled meat, spoiled coffee, it's all...
Milk?
No.
You don't like spoiled milk?
No, I have such a thing about spoiled food, and I'm like real neurotic about like, you know, expiration dates and stuff, you know.
It's like it's 2 days past I'm not eating it.
If I have like a carton of eggs and it says like, you know, July 17th and it's July 18th, I'm like, oh.
Nope. Not touching it.
And the worst
Especially an egg.
and the worst is when it just has a date. It doesn't say sell by or use by, because there's a big fucking difference.
Yeah.
If it's sell by, well then you would rationalize that you've got a little bit of time because you ain't going to buy something on that date and then have it be no good the next day. It should be good for like a week or something like that at least, right? But use by, better eat that shit up, son, because You go past that, you're fucking flirting with danger, man. But then you get some shit that just has a date, and it's like, well, what the fuck does that mean? Is that use by? Is that sell by?
If it's past that, I'm not using it.
So yeah, I usually just kind of err on the side of caution.
Yeah,
and I'm
exactly.
like, oh yeah, fuck it.
Better safe than be sorry.
Yeah, I get kind of weird about germs and all that kind of shit. So
we got off track again.
Yeah, a little bit.
It's Geeking Poetic. This is what we do. We call it Geeking Erratic.
That's what we need to do. Name change coming soon.
But anyway, so if you haven't seen this movie, or if you haven't seen Avengers Infinity War yet, or any of the recent Marvel stuff like that, then you probably don't want to watch this, because we're going to be talking about all that stuff. We're going to be talking about stuff that might be coming up to some degree. And so if that's the case, then see ya.
Go watch that
Bye.
and come back.
Get caught up on shit, please. Fucking
Why did you even click on this?
Get off your ass. Yeah. Get out of the house. Go see a fucking movie for once. Movie industry's hurting. All right. I think they're gone.
Okay.
Okay, cool.
Now we
Yeah,
can
you
start.
scared them away.
All right. So anyway, what'd you think?
I freaking love this movie, dude. Way better than the first one, I thought. It was fucking hilarious. The action scenes were way better than the first one. There's actually action throughout the whole film and not just in the last, 20 minutes, like in the first one, I thought. So, big thumbs up for me.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it too. I think we all were dying laughing.
Yeah.
I snorted at one point. I was laughing so hard.
Oh, you were.
So hard.
Yeah. I know the one moment when you just completely lost it, and we'll get to that later. But yeah, and it was funny because we were the only people. There wasn't a ton of people in the theater, which was a little.
We went really late though.
Yeah, but still,
Yeah.
Like doing shit late, so.
We did see it a week after it came out. Or
I
whatever
guess
it was.
so.
I mean,
But I mean, yeah, the other people that were in the theater, there was still, a dozen other people or so there. I don't know. They didn't seem as enamored with it as we did.
Yeah, we definitely went into it way more than everybody else.
Yeah.
They were laughing.
A little
but
bit.
Not like
no,
we
were dying, man. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. We'll get more into ranking and stuff later, but just generally, yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thought it was enjoyable. It was funny.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I like it better than the first one or not.
Yeah, I can't.
It's hard to say.
Yeah, I can't really decide.
There's things about I think okay. I guess to be fair, I think that the things that I liked about the first movie, I also liked in this movie. But I do think, yeah, they might have expanded on it a little better. Made it a little bit better. So okay.
I definitely didn't laugh as hard at the first one as I did this one.
No. I mean, first one was funny, but this one was out loud. And, you might be a little proud of me because, as I've discussed in our previous episodes, that I am way into spoiling movies. I like to read ahead of time, and know all the stuff that's going to happen. And I'm not real big on huge surprises or letdowns. But with this one, because this one was sort of I don't want to say inconsequential, but because this one happens somewhat before and concurrently with the last Marvel movie, which was Infinity War, I was like, okay, well, I know there can't be anything too major that's going to happen. So I'm just going to leave it be. And I didn't read synopsis or anything about the movie. The only thing that got spoiled for me, and I didn't even seek it out, but I just saw people talking about it, was the post-credit scenes. I knew what the post-credit scenes were, which, it was a little surprising, oh, damn, but it wasn't anything mind-blowing, but important nonetheless.
Blew my mind. I didn't see
'cause
that
I
coming.
totally forgot about that ending of Avengers for a while, and I was like, wait a minute, why is there dust? Oh.
I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was the only thing I spoiled for myself. So I didn't know what to expect from the storyline. I knew basics from seeing the trailers, like about the antagonist, this ghost character. I knew the basics of it, but
Yeah, I didn't know shit
I didn't
going
either.
into this movie.
I don't think I saw a single trailer.
Yeah, me either.
Ah, okay. So I still knew more
As usual.
because I know shit.
But I'm very proud of you. That's like the third movie in a row.
I'm trying. Well, now that since we've started doing this and everything, I'm trying. I'm trying to do that so that I can have a more fresh perspective on it when we do this.
We have character growth here, everybody.
Give you character growth. With that, yeah, I think so getting that out of the way, we all enjoyed the movie. Now, let's get into the basic details about stuff. The movie came out not that long ago. When did it come out? The 6th,
wasn't it?
I think July 6th.
July 6th, I believe. Yep.
Yeah. Movie came out July 6th, so it's only been out now. We're only in the middle of July, so it hasn't been out that long. 2 weeks, a couple
12
weeks.
Days.
It cost about the same as the last Ant-Man movie, which was somewhere around 160 mil. Now, the first Ant-Man movie that came out in 2015 ended up making about $500 million, made like 520 million at the theater once it was done. Now, I know it's only been 2 weeks, but this one has only just barely made about 300 mil. So it doesn't seem like it's
going to surpass the first one.
Probably not.
Now, is that $500 million up until now, or just that theater run?
No, I think that as far as I know, that $500 million is just it's
the
box
office.
office.
Oh, okay.
So, it was a bigger deal at the time. To be honest with you, I think part of that has to do with I don't even think it's a matter of people not caring about Ant-Man or liking Ant-Man or whatever. I think it has a lot to do with what happened in Infinity War, and people are so like, what the fuck? Like, what? We want to know what's happening next. And then Ant-Man's coming out, and it's this more lighthearted kind of thing, and it's like, doesn't seemingly have anything to do with Infinity War, so I think people
just blow it off.
Are kind of blowing it off. It seems like a lot of people I've talked to are sort of blowing it off, and I'm like, it's really good. Like, you should see it. We won't get into my whole thing about people blowing off going to see movies. I've gone over that, and
go see Solo. You'll get caught up on that.
Yeah. So I don't think that. I mean, so at the very least, this movie, it's not like a failure. They're expecting it to end up netting like around 100 million in profit. So I mean, that's I don't to Disney that might be a fucking failure, but to me, I'm going, okay, well,
that's good.
It's still profiting, It ain't the Solo disaster, so And then, on that note, I mean, of the people that have seen this movie, it seems like it's doing pretty well, isn't it? I know. Rotten Tomatoes, which, if you you may care about what Rotten Tomatoes thinks or what they don't. I don't really care,
no,
but
not really caring.
but using it as somewhat of a barometer, Rotten Tomatoes has given it a pretty overall favorable review. I think it's actually doing better so far than Ant-Man, the first
really?
one. Yeah, like a little bit. It's gotten pretty good reviews, although I think most of the reviews, it seems like the general consensus is fun, enjoyable movie, but kind of disposable and not important.
Right, yeah. It's kind of the vibe I got from what I was researching.
Yeah, I mean, do you guys agree with that?
No.
I mean, on its own, I don't think it's that disposable. I guess in the whole universe, I mean, it might play into a factor in the next Avengers because of the whole quantum realm stuff. This movie will not be disposable because it probably won't make any sense.
Right.
But as far as the character interactions in this movie, he doesn't really interact with anybody except for those guys that he's with. So in the scheme of things right now, it doesn't seem like it really matters. But I think next year, it's going to play a big part in what happens. So
yeah.
Yeah, I think they're just, again, building this character to go on to the new Avengers movie, because clearly he's going to be in it.
Yeah.
And I know from what I read in my research, he does interact with other Avengers and other superheroes and everything. So I don't think it's a throwaway movie. I think, again, it's just setting it up for future. And they set up a lot of stuff for the new Avengers movie, I thought, in this one.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I didn't think it was a throwaway, but just because of that.
Right.
It gave us a couple new hints.
Right.
To build off of.
Right. Yeah. I don't know how you define saying it's disposable. You know, I'm going, well, okay. You know, if you enjoyed it for what it was, you thought it was a fun movie, you enjoyed it, it was worth your time and money. And then on top of it, if you have enough foresight to kind of be able to see that there are, in fact, while there is no interaction with other Avengers, or there's no blah, 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 there are, in fact, important things happening in this movie that are going to more than likely, I guess we can't say 100% for sure, but pretty sure more than likely are going to factor into Avengers 4. Yeah, I you know, maybe this is one of those things where after the fact, down the line, people look back and go, you know, that actually is a pretty kick-ass movie. You know, that fits in well in the universe. And
yeah, maybe after Avengers 4 comes out, they'll go back and like, oh, I see it now.
Yeah.
Right.
Totally missed that.
And case in point for that, I think, is the Doctor Strange movie. Because I think when Doctor Strange came out, it was kind of the same thing. I think a lot of people said, oh yeah, cool character, cool movie, blah, blah, blah. Like, you know, doesn't really have that much to do with what the hell else is going on in the Marvel world, you know. It's like, what does it have to do with what we just saw in, you know, Civil War and the Sokovia Accords and blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't have anything to do with it. Well, now that you've seen, you know, the movies since then, especially Infinity War, all of a sudden now Doctor Strange is a real important character, and things that happened in the Doctor Strange movie are important. Yeah, exactly. You know, like things, the Dormammu scene and all that stuff with time and all that. That's real important. Understanding the time stone and all that. That's real important. So now all of a sudden, it's important that you've seen the Doctor Strange movie, whereas when it came out, it didn't feel like it was important. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely,
sure.
yeah.
So, yeah, I'm hoping that this kind of will fall into that same realm of realities or whatever. But remains to be seen. We'll see what happens once that fucking Avengers movie finally comes out. Real quick, getting into, we've been talking about that first Ant-Man movie. Where did you guys first, because I mean, obviously for me, like I've said before, I'm the comic book guy, you know, so I've known about Ant-Man since I was in grade school. I've been, you know, into that stuff. I used to collect Tales to Astonish comic books. Later, obviously, I wasn't around when Tales to Astonish first came out in the 60s, because I ain't that damn old. But I used to buy them. I bought them in the 80s, all right? Quit judging me. I've always been into Ant-Man and the Wasp. Love those characters and stuff. But I know you guys really weren't that familiar with it. So when did you guys first kind of become more familiar with Ant-Man? Can you remember?
Mine, it seems like it was just a few years ago.
What
is Ant-Man?
When the movie came out?
Yeah, when it came out. And I was like, I didn't see it in the theaters or anything. I saw it afterwards on video.
Okay.
And I remember I liked it. But honestly, when we went to go see this new one, I was like, I don't remember if I saw Ant-Man or not. So I had to rewatch it. And as soon as I was like, oh yeah, that's right. So I did see this. And it's really good. But for some reason, it wasn't memorable to me, which is kind of why I'm leaning towards this one being my favorite between the two.
Okay.
Maybe.
Okay. Yeah, that's valid.
Maybe we'll see in a couple of years. Which one I remember more?
I have a feeling you're going to remember this one more than the first one.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not often I laugh out loud like that in a theater.
Yeah.
It's not something I do.
Right.
And that I was dying. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. So I've kind of known about Ant-Man throughout the years. I always thought he was actually kind of a dumb character. But
I think a lot of people did.
But a few years ago, I watched this cartoon called Avengers: Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and him and Wasp play a big role in that show, and I fell in love with those characters.
Killer.
So that kind of like amped my excitement for this new movie.
That's awesome.
And I actually hadn't seen the first Ant-Man movie until literally like a week before we saw this movie.
Okay, right.
So, because honestly, the trailers made it look really fucking goofy and silly, which sometimes will put me off on movies.
Yeah, I remember you saying it in our Avengers review that you're like, it just looks too silly for me. I didn't want to watch it. And we're like, watch it.
But I love Paul Rudd, which is funny. But then I watched it and I was like, oh, this is actually fucking badass, dude. Ant-Man's a fucking cool-ass character. The technology is awesome. And this new movie, like, amped that up. We got new technology. Like, the shrinking and growing building was incredible.
Yeah.
It's so fucking cool,
I thought that you would dig the tech aspects
for sure.
of the Ant-Man movies, you know, because it's so much more science-y, you know.
It's not like a mystical power thing like Doctor Strange is, even though
I do like
Doctor Strange.
I was just saying, you liked Doctor Strange, though, which is awesome. Yeah, I figured you'd be more into the tech side of things with Ant-Man and stuff. But, you know, folks, let me just digress here for a second and emphasize something. You know, you've heard Vito talk in these reviews where he talks about, you know, Guardians of the Galaxy and Ant-Man and other things where he says that they're just too silly for him and just doesn't know if he would like it because they're so silly. And, you know,
see some of the movies in my collection, though, which is funny.
Where is this going?
Lest anybody get the false impression that Vito is this kind of like film noir like snob, you know, and everything. This man adores Ginger Dead Man. Okay?
It's a classic, guys.
It cleared out your party.
It did. A lot of movies clear out my parties. That's why I'm not allowed to put movies on after midnight. Unless we take a vote and people raise enough hands where they'll watch the movie.
Vito, I just realized, Vito is the movie gremlin. Okay? It's like fucking Gremlins and shit. It's like, don't let them fucking, don't let them put a movie after midnight. Yeah, you know. Don't, you know, like you can't get Gremlins wet and stuff because the bad shit will happen. It's like, Vito, don't give him too much booze. You know,
that's true.
Wet
I see where you're going.
And everything. And don't let him pick movies after midnight because he turns into the fucking movie gremlin at his parties. And next thing you know, you're watching Ginger Dead Man. Not only Ginger Dead Man, but Ginger Dead Man 3. Yeah. How many? Yeah.
You guys can skip Ginger Dead Man 2, Passion of the Crust, because I don't that movie is definitely bad. Don't watch Passion of the Crust. But the first one, awesome. Third one, really fucking good, man. So 1 and 3.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah. All I know is I watched like the first 20 minutes or whatever it was of Ginger Dead Man 3 at your last party.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to have to agree to disagree with you, man, on that. But
we left right after that.
Yeah, to each their own.
A lot of people left right after that, Megan.
To each
Wasn't just us?
No.
I'm like, all right, we're out.
Oh my gosh. But anyway, you know, the funny thing is, getting back to the first Ant-Man film, believe it or not, I'm walking on air. No, believe it or not, that's a whole other superhero thing. I didn't see it at the theater either.
Really?
Yeah. And in all honesty, just, you know, I'm joking on you and shit, but in all honesty, I thought it looked kind of goofy too. I was like, I like Paul Rudd. I love Ant-Man. You know, Michael Douglas, you know, like it had this like killer cast and everything. But I was just like, they made it look too much like a typical, I saw the trailer and it looked like a Paul Rudd movie, you know, like some kind of goofy, like, yeah, you know, chuckles galore kind of thing. And I'm like, oh man, you know, Because Ant-Man comics, even though people go, well, it sounds like a goofy character, it does. And they kind of make fun of that in the first movie. It was like, I'm Ant-Man. It's like, Ant-Man? Really? Yeah. It's like, yeah, I know, not a great name. But in the comics, he's a great character. And he's actually, especially the Hank Pym one, but even the Scott Lang version of Ant-Man is pretty complex, So I reacted negatively to it at first, too.
Yeah.
But... yeah, I didn't see it till it came out on video, and then I was like pleasantly surprised, especially. But I was digging that whole movie, that first Ant-Man movie, and then when it got to the scene with what's his face, Michael Pena, not Cena, Michael Pena and T.I. and them in that van when they're just backing up. We're just backing up. That's the one part in that movie when I was crying. I was just laughing so fucking hard to the point where I do that all the time now when I'm driving. I'll just, if I'm backing up my truck, I'll be like, just back up. So, yeah. So I'm with you, man, honestly. And yeah, the first movie was a pleasant surprise, and this second one was an even better surprise, man. Yeah, I thought they did a great job. And man, one thing that I think a lot of people comment about this movie, and I agree, is we kind of needed a sillier movie. Whereas I think when 2015, when we got the first one, it was fine. But I think now, after the events in like Infinity War, I mean, the last two movies were Black Panther and Infinity War. And, those were not silly movies, especially Infinity War. Mm-hmm. Not silly at all, and very dark, and leaving a lot of people just slack-jawed, and everything. I think that going back to a lighthearted thing with this is important. And you were saying to me that weren't you saying that people were kind of criticizing that, right? We're saying about you told me something.
It didn't really feel like an MCU movie,
right?
Because it was so lighthearted.
I don't agree.
I don't agree either. It's Ant-Man. They made it out to this whole movie is to be lighthearted.
Right.
And I think it plays into it. I mean, they can't all be serious all the time.
Right.
It's good to have the character.
Yeah. DC movies.
Yeah.
It could be all dark and...
Yeah.
And
those
wind up being...
suck.
DC movies try to be dark, wind up being silly. Yeah, and I think but that's a good point. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think if an Ant-Man and the Wasp movie tried to be... an Ant-Man movie isn't going to be Civil War or Winter Soldier. It just can't. It would. I don't think. I guess you could possibly do it, but not with that.
Not with
Paul.
that.
Yeah. Paul Rudd and Michael Pena and them. Like, yeah, I could see them doing like Civil War. It's like no, that just wouldn't work.
It's like making Deadpool serious.
Right, yeah.
It's just not going to work.
No.
That's not who the character is.
Right, exactly. And while I said in the comic books Ant-Man is not that kind of goofy or character and everything, I think in this MCU they've established him this way with that cast. It's got that vibe to it. I don't know. I thought it felt like a Marvel Universe movie. I thought it was fine. Mm-hmm. I don't know. People that say that stuff like that, I feel like they don't really know Marvel. Because even in the comic books, it's not like it's all fucking serious. And I mean, there's some pretty goofy shit that happens in the Marvel comic books sometimes. There's,
maybe they're just complaining to complain.
Yeah, well, I mean,
it's the internet. So,
I mean, yeah. Well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, if people see it, people can feel however they want. They can see it, and feel like, oh, this just doesn't feel right. It's not connecting with me like the other Marvel movies. Okay, that's fine. I just don't agree. I'm just seriously thinking about, like, okay, is there anything about it that I go, oh, that's just such not a Marvel movie to be like that? And I can't really think of anything that would have taken me out. There was nothing that took me out of it. Like, I was like, okay, yeah, this is, I'm in that Marvel mind, you know, with this mindset. So
I don't know, maybe because he doesn't have the superpowers, but Tony Stark doesn't have the superpowers.
Right.
It's all technology based.
yeah, I don't know. I don't know. What do you guys think? You know, obviously this is a good opportunity for us to say, whether you're listening to this on iTunes or something, or you're watching the YouTube video, or you're checking this out on Facebook or wherever. Leave comments. Let us know. Like, do you feel like this fit into the Marvel Universe? Was there something about this movie that made you feel like it just doesn't belong or anything like that? You know, I'd be interested to hear what people think about that. Maybe there's something that
we're not seeing.
Yeah, we're not catching now. So anyway, yeah, on that note, let's start breaking it down and talk about the characters. All right, so the real meat and potatoes of this movie, of any movie, I guess, is the characters. And we've already talked about them a little bit, but let's talk about, I don't know, like, there's movies all about relationships, mostly Scott's relationships and how he relates to everybody. One thing that I saw I heard some criticisms of was people saying they weren't real thrilled with the way they portrayed Scott and Hope Van Dyne's relationship in this movie. I don't know if they expected them to be more
lovey-dovey.
Yeah, to be a little bit further along, and I don't know. I thought it made sense.
Yeah, I kind of like that they weren't together.
Yeah, because that would have been a typical bullshit Hollywood romance thing.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it totally made sense with the relationship of how things got with Civil War into now and how they're on the run and stuff. Like, why would she want to still be with him like that, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I like the give and take from them.
Yeah.
Where they were bickering back and forth. I thought that was good.
Yeah, I think it kind of works better for those characters too. I mean, ultimately at the end of the movie, they're now kind of
back up.
Yeah.
And then
doing their thing.
Yeah, well,
well, for a little bid, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Well,
but yeah, I think it made sense. I really don't think I would have wanted them to be just a full-on couple at the beginning of this, and just I think that those two characters work really well when they're sort of clashing.
Yeah, butting heads and
right.
Yeah,
Especially the way Evangeline Lilly plays Wasp. You know, I think she's just got that kind of. He's so goofy and just earnest and goofy and everything, and she's so just like badass,
job done, yeah.
Ball buster kind of chick that's like, quit fucking around, you're not gonna sweet talk your way out of shit with her, and I like that they've written her that way and stuff. So yeah, I didn't have an issue with that. I saw a little bit of criticism too regarding Scott and Hank too, but I thought it made sense, I don't know if some people maybe didn't quite catch on to the fact that, Hank he tries to come off like he's upset about Scott blowing it, with losing the suit and the tech and
destroying his life's work.
And that it's all about his life's work. But I kind of think that the underlying thing was that really where he was upset was that he cares about Scott and kind of looks at Scott like,
let him down.
Right. That it was more like being let down by a son or a protege that you have high faith and care for and stuff. I thought it worked out great. I really liked the development of those characters and stuff. I thought I didn't see that coming. It never occurred to me that Scott running off and doing the things he did in Civil War and then getting caught and all that stuff, like, it never even occurred to me of like, how the fuck is
fallout?
Yeah, how's that going to affect the Pym and Van Dyne? Like, what's that going to mean for them? Like, I loved that angle of that, like, that they were just completely screwed over by that, you know. Once again, Scott doing something that he thinks is, you know, good and like, I'm trying to do the right thing, and then just completely fucking it up and fucking people over, you know, but he never means to fuck people over, but he does. And that, of course, they continue that theme throughout this whole movie, you know, just him constantly doing that, which kind of leads to, I'll discuss one thing that a lot of people have praised, and rightly so, was Scott and Cassie and their
I love that relationship aspect. That was so cute when he made that little ant tunnel thing that they went through. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was great.
Like, I want to be your partner.
Yeah, that was
I
cute.
can't let you do that.
Right. And I think that them doing that, starting right off the bat, you know, those first scenes in the movie is them playing superhero and her being his partner. And then several more times throughout the movie about her, you know, them broaching that subject of, you know, well, I can be your, you know, I can have your back and all this stuff. And yeah, there's
foreshadowing there.
They're setting us up for something there, you know, because if you don't know, for some of you that don't know this, that Cassie Lang in the comic books does become her own superhero character named Stature. And pretty cool character, and becomes part of the Young Avengers and all that stuff.
Yeah, I did not know that until like this morning. So
yeah, I said like I've always known. I just realized it after the movie myself. So news to me.
Well, you know it now. So,
I know it now.
So, and knowing is half the battle.
The other 50% is, you know, blue lasers and red lasers, right?
Yeah. I thought that it was also really cool that they had her sort of really give her, knowing, you know, you're seeing that she's maturing and understanding things better, and her kind of saying like, Dad, you're not a fuck up, you know, sometimes the youngest character in the movie, the little kid, has to be the one with the words of wisdom to basically let him know, like, no, you have to do the right thing, even if it's not necessarily seeming like the greatest idea, you know.
You gotta bend the rules a little.
Right. And her saying, you know, ultimately saying, like, I'll understand if this fucks things up for me and you have to go back to jail or whatever, because you have to do this. You can't not be a hero, you know. So I thought that was really cool. You know, obviously, although you did see it a little bit at the end of Ant-Man and everything, they carried on with the new dynamic now between Scott and the family, with Cassie and Maggie and Jim and everything. What did you guys think of that?
With Maggie and Cassie, is that her name?
Maggie, yeah, and Cassie. Yeah.
Okay.
Maggie, played by the awesome Judy Greer.
Of Archer.
And It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Yeah.
What?
Yeah. She was, what's her character? She was on Sunny, yeah.
I never saw that show.
God, I don't know why I'm looking at you. I know that. I don't remember that at all.
Hang on. She played Ingrid in It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. She was also on Arrested Development.
Okay, I'll have to look back on that.
Way to go. This is the Always Sunny. This is the one that was always telling me about it. It's so good. It's so good.
It's so stupid. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is really stupid, but it's awesome. Anyway, sorry.
Where were we going? Oh,
you were saying you liked them.
I like them and how they interact with Scott. Jim, on the other hand, was a little much for me. That was total. I mean, I guess that's the joke or whatever, but it was weird. The way he was always hugging Scott.
Yeah, that I could have done without.
I was like, he's supposed to be this badass police officer and shit. And now he's like, oh, Scott, I love you. You're amazing. I'm like, come on. It's a little overboard.
It was overboard. Yeah, I'll give you that.
That's my one gripe.
I thought it was funny. I liked it. I thought it was funny because you went from his character in the first movie just being so fucking incredibly disapproving of Scott, just like being like, you are the supreme fuck up, you know, can't stand you. And then Scott saves his life and Cassie's life and stuff at the end of the first movie. And it's just interesting that whereas like Hope and Hank are so disappointed in everything with Scott for getting arrested.
Flip, wasn't it?
It was a
I didn't
total
even think
flip.
of that.
Yeah, and then here, you know, but I kind of wondered, like, once they, you know, it was like, oh, is, you know, like, so I said, I never thought about how, you know, adversely that was going to affect Hope and Hank. But I did think, you know, after Civil War was like, oh, man, you know, like he just proved himself to his ex and to Jim and Cassie and everything. And now he's like arrested. He's like in all this trouble and shit. Like, is he going to be like cut off and, you know, from Cassie again? Are they going to hate him and say, see, we knew he was a big fuck up? And instead, they seem to be like totally like,
embrace him.
Like, no, we know
over
he's
and over.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Every time you see him, he's hugging him.
Bobby Cannavale, like, he's a great actor. And it's so funny because he's such like a badass dude, you know what I mean? Even like in other roles he's played and stuff. So to have him play just such a big, you know, cream puff to him now, this kind of meathead cream puff, I thought that was pretty funny. But yeah, you know, I thought that was cool because I expected the opposite. So I'm glad that they didn't automatically do that, and they were just like, no, they still had his back, they were still supportive and everything. I thought that was pretty cool. But let's not beat around the bush anymore. Let's get to possibly the best fucking characters in this movie.
The ant decoy?
No, that wasn't what I was gonna say.
Damn.
But that ant,
But you mention it.
but that ant was fucking awesome.
Dude, holy shit, though. When he's playing the fucking drums, that was so good.
Oh,
like when he was in
man.
a bath.
That
Like,
was
why
great.
are you in the bath for that long? What is wrong with you?
Little ant legs sticking out of the water.
Yeah.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, because the ant was meant to replicate all of Scott's usual daily actions to a T, and so yeah, spending 2 hours in the bathroom.
And he's going to continue to do that even though nobody's, you know, half the world's left or whatever. He's going to keep going or what?
He was still playing them drums.
Sweet job. Why not?
Yeah, that ant's like got it fucking made. Yeah, no, I loved the ant, but yeah, I was going to say we had to bring up the ex-cons. Yeah, was it Luis, Dave, and
T.I.?
Kurt?
Kurt.
No, T.I. is who
Dave.
plays Dave.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Yeah, the rapper. But yeah, holy shit, man! Like seriously, if you haven't seen, I know you probably wouldn't be watching this if you haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp. But in case you haven't seen Ant-Man and the Wasp,
We already told them to leave if they haven't.
yeah, well, you know, some people don't fucking listen. It is the internet.
You've been warned, so go ahead.
But what I was going to say is, if you have seen the first Ant-Man movie, and you haven't seen this one yet, you're not sure or whatever, fucking see it, especially if you liked those characters, because, oh my God.
They're so much funnier. in
They're
this one,
even
man.
funnier in this one. When they're sitting in the apartment, and they get into the whole discussion about ghosts and everything, and Kurt's talking about Baba Yaga.
You guys were dying.
It was so good.
Who's Baba Yaga? Like, and Baba Yaga, if you don't know, it's an actual like legendary like witch type character, like an Eastern European kind of thing. And stuff, so the hut of Baba Yaga. So yeah, that was. I mean, man, they like those characters. I mean, Luis was great in the first movie too. Dave and Kurt were funny. You know, they were okay. But man, they made them great in this movie. Mm-hmm. This movie, without as much, everybody was good in this movie, and I like the overall story. But man, this movie without those three characters would be such a, I don't know.
A lot of the comedy came from them.
It came from them, and they were just so amazing. So amazing. Yeah, Michael Pena as Luis. That is just a fucking
That was perfect casting.
Herculean, like, fucking monumental acting there. Because, like I was saying, like that is, if you know anything about him, the actor, he's not like that. Like, he's not. I mean, he's obviously, you know, Latino or whatever, but he's not like that. Like, he's no. He's not like that at all. He's putting it on, and I'm sure he's probably getting it from, you know. He probably say, "Oh, I have a cousin like that," or something
I was gonna
like
say,
that.
he probably grew up with it, so he's
Absolutely,
well
I grew up with
versed in
that.
it.
I know people like that. You know, I grew up in around that, and that's why it's so damn funny to me, because it's like, man, I know that dude. I hung out with that dude. I still hang out with that dude. You know, I know people like that. I worked with guys like that. You know, and oh my God, I don't want to give away too much in case you have, but yeah, the gags with those three in this movie are fucking incredible.
I just love when they do his storytelling and they cut to different people, but those actors are talking like Michael Payne,
Like
doing
him,
facial expressions, but they're not supposed to be. It's so fucking good.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh my, dude. Yeah, and the whole truth serum.
Oh my God, that was fucking great.
It's not truth serum.
Yeah,
Truth doesn't
when he
exist.
just starts like rattling off all sorts of shit. Yeah, I'm talking about Morrissey. I love that there's a Morrissey reference in this, like a serious Morrissey reference in this movie, and Luis's ringtone on Scott's phone is Every Day's Sunday. Like, oh my God, fucking awesome. I love Morrissey. Yeah, I know some people
a fucking
don't.
douchebag, dude.
No, yeah, he is, but he's actually right about a lot of shit too. And I like Morrissey, and his music's incredible.
It's not incredible.
What do you know, man? Come on.
I was looking for a job, then I found a job. Why the fuck are you so depressed, man? You got the fucking job. Just shut up. Jesus Christ.
Hey, you have a job. Do you like your job?
No. But I'm not going to write a song because I was looking for a job, then I found one.
Well, you know what, Vito? Maybe if you fucking did, then November's Doom would be fucking more successful by now. So there.
You need to write that song.
I guess so.
Be my Johnny Marr. Come
That'll be
on,
our
man.
next record. That's
Exactly.
gonna be smash hit right there.
Exactly. Meat is murder.
Surprised venues still book him after he canceled them.
Yeah, well, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, he is kind of going off the deep end with a lot of his antics. But anyway, this is not a show about Morrissey.
No, it's not.
But just the idea that he had a jukebox in his grandmother's restaurant that played nothing but Morrissey and the Smiths, that's fucking funny. in a Mexican restaurant. Like, what the fuck? Anyway, so yeah, those three characters, they in large part make this movie super fucking enjoyable for me. So
My favorite scene in the movie,
yeah,
until the next scene that made me snort laughing, was with them in it when Ghost appeared and they all jumped like that. Oh my God, that's a great scene. I love that scene.
yeah, that was a great scene. Let's go. Let's talk about your favorite scene. Was it the water?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was the Pez then. Oh, that was great too.
Dude,
Yeah.
he's so small and he's like fall into the water and they make it like it's this like he's gonna fall to his possible death, and then the next thing they just show this like bloop in the water. And as soon
all those sound gags are great. The car stuff with the engines revving up when they're really small was awesome.
yeah, the Hot Wheels case and all that. That was. Yeah, and him rolling up in that fucking car with his "What's up?" Talking about the old commercials for that. Oh my God. Yeah, there's. I thought the humor was sublime in this movie. I really did. It is. Some of it is just stupid and eye rolling, but for my sense of humor, I was like, okay,
perfect.
this is.
We were all dying.
This is funny, and like I said before, I think it was necessary because man, Infinity War was not a barrel of laughs.
We did not laugh at that one.
It had a few,
Well,
it
there was
had
a
some
couple.
humor in there, but it wasn't
Not at the end.
not new,
Not a
especially
little.
not the second half of that movie.
Unless you're fucked up in the head and then you were laughing.
Yeah, I mean, but now real quick, what about some of these new characters? But, so we got introduced to a bunch of new characters in this. First of all, let me talk about Bill Foster, which was played by Lawrence Fishburne. I know you guys probably weren't familiar with Goliath, the character of Goliath, but yeah, man, when I first was reading Avengers comics and collecting comic books when I was a kid, some of the first ones I bought had Goliath, and he had a short series in the mid-70s called Black Goliath and everything, and those were some of the first ones I had. So for me, when I realized he was in it, that they were going that route, I mean, he didn't end up turning into Goliath, but just the fact that he was there, I was like, fuck yeah, dude, fucking Goliath, that is awesome. I love when they...
I like that scene where they were talking about, so how big did you get?
Yeah.
My record's like 26 feet. He goes, oh, yeah, it's 65 feet.
Yeah, exactly.
65.
You guys are done comparing sizes.
For a while.
Yeah. I thought that was a really cool addition of him in the movie. I thought he was portrayed really well.
Love Lawrence Fishburne, dude.
Yeah, me too. I'm a big Lawrence Fishburne fan. I think he's a great actor. And what I like about him is that, or about the character, is I like that they didn't, because at first I was like, oh, when you find out that he's helping Ghost, the antagonist, who we'll get to in a minute, when you find out that he's helping Ghost, I was like, oh, they're going to make him a villain? Like, he's the bad guy? Like, I don't know if I can buy that. But they didn't. They didn't make it, that his intentions are noble and good and everything. And
he's trying to fix
stuff,
things.
yeah.
And I like that he had like a line that he wouldn't cross. He's like, look, I desperately want to help you, but we cannot do this, and we won't do that.
Yeah.
That was
I
awesome.
will not help you.
Right.
If you do this.
Yeah, exactly. That was that. So I was really happy with the way that character ended up being portrayed in the end. And I would like to see more of that character, and we'll get to that a little later when we get to
the Ghost character was phenomenal, I thought.
Okay.
I think sometimes she was slightly underused, and I got this Matrix-y vibe from her.
Yeah.
Like Matrix Reloaded, I think, the second one. Those ghost people.
Yes. Literally,
yeah.
Good fucking point.
And her mask looked like a Sentinel, those squid machines from Matrix. It kind of had that look to it with the 4 red eyes on there.
Dude, good call. I didn't even think about that. Yeah, that's a really good point. Well, and then what's funny is, I don't know if you noticed this, but obviously you're talking about Matrix, and then you're talking about Lawrence Fishburne. Did you catch that the scene when he's teaching the class, and he's writing on the chalkboard and everything? Did you see that he writes the word Matrix on the board?
No, I missed that.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even catch that, dude.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's pretty awesome.
Right.
I love the little Matrix reference. So I knew about that, but I didn't even think about what you're talking about, like with Reloaded. So that's even better, because I fucking dig the Matrix. So
Yeah, dude.
I know people bag on that now. But
I have never seen The Matrix.
Ooh.
Holy
That
shit.
was like a life-changing movie for me
For you,
and a
yeah.
lot of people at that time, man.
It was a big movie, yeah.
We'll have to sit down
Sequels,
and watch this.
the sequels are flawed.
Yeah, but that first one, Megan, is...
The first one is, I think
it's still good.
Still a great movie. And all of them are worth seeing. They're, like I said, the sequels are flawed. I didn't care for some of the things they chose to do, but they're still good. They're still worth watching, I think. But anyway, so that was cool. As far as Ghost goes, well, what did you think? Let me think about this for a minute. What did you think about Ghost?
I thought she was pretty badass when they first introduced her.
Mm-hmm.
I don't read the comic books, so I don't know much about the past and how they explained all that with her dad.
Well,
and how Pym was saying, like, he was the bad guy. And now I got confused. I thought that Pym was telling Goliath, or saying that Goliath was feeding her lies. But then you said something that she was feeding Goliath lies.
Yes.
I think I mixed that up.
Well,
while we were watching. But I thought she was a badass. Then you throw Sonny in there. Right, that's...
Yeah, like the mafia guy.
Yeah, the mafia guy. And he's
Sonny
like
Birch.
just this little like mosquito, like picking at them. And they was like, okay, just stop right now. We got this badass to take care of. It's kicking her ass all over the place. Would you please just stop?
Well, okay. To answer some of your questions there. So here's the thing. So Ghost is a character in the comic universe. However, it is not the same as this character. There, for one thing, Ghost
is a guy, right?
Is a guy, yeah, in there, and Ghost is not the son of
Elias or whatever.
Elias Starr. Yeah, Elias Starr. Now here's the interesting thing, and this it's actually a good segue for me. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Because there's one of the few gripes I have about the movie at all. In this movie, when they talk about her backstory and that her father had been, unceremoniously like screwed out of, S.H.I.E.L.D. and all this by Pym, and he was trying to continue on his work and blah, blah, blah. And she makes it sound like, her father was like a good, like almost like a hero and everything. And then what?
Wasn't he like carrying on his work with the bad guys?
Well, hang on.
Okay,
so,
all right. Sorry.
Right. So here's the thing. So she talks about that and everything, and that's how she ended up getting afflicted with, from the quantum energy and all that makes her all out of phase with reality or whatever. Okay. And then Michael Douglas, Hank Pym, says, she's been her head's been filled with lies, and she's feeding him lies and this and that and whatever, blah, blah, blah. Her father was a traitor, and he stole my tech, and he was, trying to develop it probably for Hydra or something like that. Okay, so my gripe with that is exactly that. First of all, it was done so kind of thrown out there that you didn't even quite catch.
Yeah, I didn't quite follow it.
See, I thought for a couple minutes that Lawrence Fishburne was her father. I kind of missed something there.
Right.
And then they did the flashback, and I was like, wait a minute, that doesn't look like Lawrence Fishburne.
I felt like that was all done too quick and sloppy. Like, because here's the thing. So Elias Starr, the character that is supposed to be her father, is an actual character. And his more well-known name from the comics is Egghead. Okay? Egghead, yeah, well...
I got Batman 67 flashbacks.
Oh, yeah, different Egghead. Egghead in the comic books was one of the very first adversaries of Hank Pym and Ant-Man and everything. He was in I think the first full appearance of Hank as Ant-Man was Tales to Astonish number 37, and Egghead comes in 38 or something. He's one of the earliest ones. So he's a pretty prominent villain in the early days. And Elias Starr, he was a guy that he was a brilliant scientist kind of guy, was thrown out for espionage and all that stuff. So that's all legit. That's straight from the fucking comics. And it was when I realized that, it was oh, okay, cool. But they glossed over it so quickly, and I just was well, to literally take something to me that's somewhat important and major, and important in the backstory of this main character, and to just literally throw it out in, what was it, 3 lines that Michael Douglas threw out, and then they just never talked about it ever again, and I was ugh. That felt rushed. They should have focused a little bit more on that. And I think, I don't know. I just felt like that whole thing was thrown away too much. I almost would rather they wouldn't have made her father Elias Starr. You know what I mean? I would have rather it was just some other whomever, but it was that was important. That was actually kind of an important detail of not only her history, but Ant-Man's history, and a background rich character, and they just used it as a throwaway, and I went, oh, you could have done better than that. I just, okay, kudos to them for throwing the Egghead character in there in some way, oh, okay, cool, but I don't know. It just felt sloppy to me, the whole way they included it in there. And that's really my only major gripe with this movie is that, as I kind of felt, as badass as Ghost's character was, I felt like they could have taken a little more time to kind of flesh her out a little bit more. Mm-hmm. I should have felt more sympathetic towards her because she wasn't technically a bad guy.
Villain.
But I ended up not feeling that sympathetic for her, and I actually started kind of getting a little bit annoyed with her towards the end, where she was just being so completely unreasonable and, like, you know...
Temper tantrumy?
Just too temper tantrumy, and it was like, bitch, come on.
Slow your roll.
Well, you know, when she just wasn't even listening to Lawrence Fishburne anymore, when she wasn't listening to Foster anymore. I get why they did, but...
Yeah, I mean, she knew she was running out of time. Like, she literally had, like a week left or something like that before she was going to totally just evaporate or whatever their condition was.
But, I mean, here's the thing. It's like, in terms of, like, that egghead thing, you kind of walk away from that when Michael Douglas goes, that's just a bunch of bullshit. Her father was a traitor, and, you know, he was thrown out because he stole tech and blah, 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 this and that. And then that was it. And did you kind of get the impression that it was like, you didn't exactly know if he was telling the truth?
Yeah.
Like, it almost seemed like he was so dismissive of it that it was just like he was just trying to deflect off of the fact that, you know, maybe she was right and Hank was a real dick. And this is kind of Hank's fault. But it wasn't Hank's fault. Like, Egghead was a legit douchebag, you know, that was creating, you know, was working on this stuff for, you know, Hydra or whomever, you know, like that, what he said was legit, but it just came across so throwaway that it didn't.
Well, maybe they wanted it to be that way, so we would question.
Yeah, I mean, if it's...
Ghost had a valid reason to hate him for that and want to get revenge.
I guess. I just...
Because they kind of make Hank to be this ultra asshole who nobody likes him at all, and he always fucks up something with his working relationships and his personal relationships.
Well, and that kind of gets into, I mean, you know, in the comic books, Hank Pym is a complicated character.
Isn't he? Does he, like, beat his wife or something?
Yeah. There's some negative shit with Hank Pym and Janet, you know. They did this whole thing where he became, you know, physically abusive, and it actually, like, for the first time ever in comic books, they discussed and addressed domestic abuse, you know, and divorce, and all these kind of, at the time, heady, you know, subjects, you know, for the 1970s or whatever it was, early 70s, early 80s and all that. So they're not going that route with the character, thankfully. But I do think that they are taking some of that kind of assholishness of Hank Pym from the comic books and putting it into Michael Douglas's portrayal. And I'm down with that. I thought everybody did, even the new characters, I bought into them. I thought everybody did a great job in this movie. Like I said, my only gripe was that I wish there would have been a little bit more fleshed out about the whole Egghead thing. That being said, who knows what the future holds, you know? Yeah. If there's an Ant-Man 3, you know, and also even if there is an Ant-Man 3 or future Ant-Man-ish movies, Egghead could factor into it, but I'm going to save that. Yeah. Remind me, I'll call back to that in a little bit, because that'll lead us to something later. But one thing I want to try and discuss, and we don't have to discuss it real long, but one thing I want to get into is the whole what I feel is the important thing about this movie, which is the full realization and introduction of the quantum realm. So, the quantum realm. Yeah. So, you know, while it was discussed in the first Ant-Man movie, they really, really delved into it, no pun intended, with this movie and the quantum realm. So the whole thing with the quantum realm, first of all, let me just say, the reason why they call it the quantum realm, because they have to put quantum in front of everything. They make a joke about that in the movie. the reason that they call it quantum realm is because technically it's the microverse. And they cannot call it the microverse because microverse is a coined term or whatever that has to do with the Micronauts, which Micronauts were known to most people as it was a Marvel comic in the 70s and early 80s created by Bill Mantlo, I believe. I should know because I fucking love the Micronauts, man. I love the shit out of the Micronauts. I am a huge Micronauts fan. I love the comic books, both the original series and the New Voyage series. It started in 1984. I love the Mego Micronauts toys that premiered in 77. I should know that.
You should know that.
Damn it. Yeah, it was like around 76, 77, which were created from Micromen that were created by Takara in Japan. They started out as little Japanese toys and everything. Anyway, Marvel had a limited license to do Micronauts and all this kind of stuff, but they don't own it. They don't actually own Micronauts, so they can't. To my understanding, if I'm wrong, please correct me. But to my understanding, they cannot make reference to Micronauts, Microverse, stuff like that. So they call it the quantum realm. And what it is, if you don't know, I'm sure if you're watching this, you know, is that if you go subatomic, you can't go subatomic, Scott.
You never go subatomic.
You never go subatomic. It's like going in. So in the Marvel universe, going subatomic is kind of like going ass to mouth. So.
Kind of not at all, actually.
well, it's like
Explain.
you only do it if you're really brave, man. You know, I mean, if you really need to get down in it and everything, you really, you just.
If the passion's there, yeah, I guess. But...
if you have the passion for it. I was gonna try to keep this more clean.
Oh, that went out the window.
Yeah, but. When you go subatomic, you go into the microverse is almost like a whole nother universe.
If you guys have seen Men in Black, I think that'll make sense. You guys remember when he opens the locker at the end and there's like all like those little dudes?
Yeah.
And at the end, like that alien's playing with marbles, but in that marble is like our universe.
Mm-hmm.
Does that kind of make
well,
sense?
they make reference. It's been referred to. It's not like Marvel or Micronauts or anybody is the first time this theory's ever been brought up. But there was a scene in Ant-Man and the Wasp where I think it's when Scott is like watching TV or he's falling asleep or whatever on the couch, and he has TV on and there's a movie on that he's watching with Donald Sutherland.
With the fingernail thing?
We're talking about the so you're telling me there could be a one small universe in my fingernail, blah, blah, blah. And that's a scene from the incredible movie Animal House. Have you guys ever seen Animal House?
Yes.
Seen parts of it,
It's
didn't
been
like
a long
it.
time.
Fuck! That movie's fucking incredible.
Are you doing this on purpose?
No, I legitimately, I don't get it, guys. Again, I don't get it.
I think, okay, look, I'm just
What year did it come out? That'll probably explain it.
78. But that doesn't matter, man. First of all, you like Ghostbusters, right?
Yeah, but that was 84.
Yeah, but it's like all the same motherfuckers that made it.
Yeah, but Ghostbusters is funny, man.
So was fucking Animal House. Didn't you say you've only seen parts of it or whatever?
Yes.
Yeah, you need to watch it again sometime, man, because that movie's funny. So that scene, but yeah, they talk about that, and it's the whole idea that, worlds within worlds. And so
It's all turtles down or whatever.
Yeah. So why is this important? Well, it's important because we've had hints of this stuff and possible hints towards more of this happening, because at the end of the movie, Scott is going down to harness some of that quantum energy and everything, and that is when the snapture happens. And he's stuck there in the quantum realm. Hope and Janet and Hank
kaput.
they're dust in the wind.
And possibly his whole family, because it's just the ant there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, exactly.
Good
yeah.
call.
Yeah, so like everybody's fucking gone.
Yeah.
and Scott's stuck and all this stuff. But more importantly, the whole quantum realm and what that energy can do, the ghost character showing that because of the quantum energy and stuff, she's phasing between dimensions, almost like alternate dimensions, alternate timelines. Could this factor into what we see from the next big Marvel movie, which is, Infinity War 2 or whatever they're calling it? I say fucking probably.
Good chance.
Yeah, good chance.
Pretty good.
Plus, Janet makes the comment to Scott there in that end credit scene when she says, "Oh, and don't get caught in a time vortex. It's really hard to get out of, blah, blah, blah." And I'm going, yeah. So you just brought up time travel. So I think that, like we said earlier, getting back to what we were talking about earlier, I think that this movie is going to be important ultimately in the future of our heroes and of the universe, because this movie introduces all of that into the storyline. And I think it's going to be. What did you guys think of all the quantum realm stuff?
I thought it was pretty cool.
Yeah.
I like the scene with those water bears,
Yeah.
which are like real life animals that are almost like immortal, pretty much. They can survive like anywhere, like days or weeks in space. It's just nuts. But that was awesome, and just the whole visual aspect was neat. I don't know, that was a very cool concept, I thought.
That was funny how she's like, they look cute, but they'll eat you. They will destroy you. Don't get too close.
Well, and another thing that I thought was a little interesting, and obviously we didn't have enough time with Janet's character to find out, but one thing that's interesting that they emphasize so much about the quantum realm and going subatomic and all that is that it messes with your mind. It's very hard on your mind. That's why you have to have the helmet on. That's part of why the helmet was created, blah, blah, blah. That's why Hank has that weird dream vision, whatever thing of like the past and the future, like whatever that was, that whole other thing, and showed how quickly that started to fuck with his brain and everything. How is it that Janet was down there for 30 years?
What did she eat?
Well, yeah.
Water bears.
I guess.
Man,
or if she's just so small that her body doesn't need energy, which is bullshit. But yeah, that was kind of one thing. I was like, well, how is she still alive?
Well, here's the thing, though. I mean, obviously she aged. Okay. But at the same time, maybe things like, remember, she does say that it changes you. Like she's changed physically. She's not the same human being, literally, physically, that she was before she went down there. So she is completely changed. But my point that I'm getting at is she also changed mentally? Like, what's going on with her psyche? She seems like fucking
seems okay,
all good. But if you see how quickly that affected Michael Douglas, it's like, how did she keep it together so well? Was it because she just stayed protected? I don't know. I need to probably see the movie again.
See if there's clues or hints or something.
Right. Well, because also the other thing is, as I was thinking about it, when you look at the Darren Cross character from the villain from Yellow Jacket, from the first one, another example of somebody who ultimately you go, yeah, well, he's an asshole, he was a villain and stuff. But Hope keeps emphasizing throughout that movie that Darren was not always like that. It's not like he was just, from day one was just this bastard. He wasn't this bastard. He was driven. He was a lot like Hank, like Hank even brings up. But what made him supposedly be crazy and become the Yellow Jacket guy was that exposure of the particles and all that stuff affecting him, because he wasn't properly protected all those years, and it affected him. So I'm going, okay, he was affected. Hank was affected, being down there and everything. What about Janet? Like,
what about Scott?
Well, yeah, and it shows that it did affect him, because he was having the,
He had that link with her towards the end.
Right.
Every time they open the portal and stuff. So.
Right. So it does. So I'm just kind of, I mean, I know that shows that Janet has these powers now and she's kind of almost like one with the quantum energy. I get that. But I'm just speaking more from a psychological standpoint. We could see how psychologically it affected these other characters. Is it going to affect her, you know? And what can that mean for if they use the quantum realm and quantum energy for potential things that happen in the future in Avengers and stuff like that? What's that going to mean? Like, could there be effects with that? Obviously, we don't know, but it's something to consider.
How about Ghost? They're bringing back all these quantum particles and stuff for her to fix her.
Yeah.
She's really exposed to it. She's what she is.
That's a good point, too, because we don't know what happened to Ghost with the Snapture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I should say, if people are like, what are you talking about the Snapture? The Snapture is geek fandom reference to when Thanos snapped his finger.
He created the rapture from the Bible.
Like the rapture, but it's a Snapture. Yeah, I did not create that. That's some,
Loser.
Yeah. Awaiting the Snapture. But anyway, yeah, exactly. Where's Ghost? Like, is she going to still be around? And what kind of fucking shape is she going to be in? Because she was needing that energy that Scott was supposed to be harnessing and everything to fix her. So, like, who knows? Will she factor in if there is time travel, dimension jumping and stuff going on? Will she factor into that? Will they use her as part of that?
Hope so. I really like that Ghost.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm just saying it's things to consider. Obviously, we're going to be talking more about this very soon in another video that we're going to be putting out. So I will say no more. But, so, yeah. Very curious to see how they're going to use the whole quantum energy, quantum realm thing and get into for future stuff, yeah. On that note, let's just talk about how does this movie rate? How's it rate?
In the overall scheme of things,
Yeah.
this movie, trying to think what number it would be for me. It's definitely in the top 5 Marvel movies.
Okay.
For sure.
All right.
That I've seen.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah,
you
I'd
don't.
have to give it that high.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. You're wrong. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm just joking.
It's his opinion. He's not wrong.
No,
Maybe it's just because it's fresh, because we just saw it. But I just had so much fun, and I was like excited during the movie watching it. And
You were on the edge of your seat.
I was.
It was really cute.
Yeah. No, No, I'm joking. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't really think you're wrong at all. No, I don't. I wouldn't put it in my top 5, but maybe in the top 10. I really enjoyed it, and it's again. I think it's gonna depend on what happens in the future, and I think that just like now, Doctor Strange, I really liked when I first saw it, and I knew it was one of my favorites, but especially now with the way they further developed that character.
Yeah, it's so crucial to the storyline.
And further developed that character and that storyline, and now seeing him interact more with the other characters in the universe, I'm like, fucking Doctor Strange rules, So I like that movie even more now, and Doctor Strange is easily in my top 5. Yeah, I would say maybe top 10 for me, but I can't justify being in the top 5 yet. Because I've got, and I don't want to go too much into this because I'm sure we're going to do a movie or a ranking video of the movies where we sit there and maybe discuss our top 5s or our top 10 or whatever of the Marvel Universe. Not yet. We'll save that for later. But yeah, when there's other movies out there like fucking Winter Soldier, Civil War, Doctor Strange, like that top 5 that's tight, man. That's a tough one. But yeah, we'll see. Really, really good, and definitely could be a contender. It could have been a contender. All right, well, I think we've said just about everything that needs to be said about this movie. We've rambled. Well, I rambled. I know.
You guys know the drill by now.
I know.
You know how this works.
I know. I try. I know you fucking people are probably sick of listening to me talk and talk and talk. I'm sick of it too. I can't even stand to listen to myself talk. But, you know, I'm sort of the ringleader around these parts. So, and I know the most about this bullshit. So
when we get into our Ginger Dead Man retrospective, I'm probably going to be the talker there.
No, you know when, listen, I'm just going to let you folks know.
Listen, Linda,
Listen. All right. You want to know if anybody's watching and going, when are Megan and Vito really going to start throwing a lot more out there? You know when it's going to become a much more even playing field here with this? Star Trek.
Yeah.
Once we start doing Star Trek, so if any of you that are watching this are like, oh yeah, I love Star Trek, just wait.
You're at the right place.
Yeah.
We've been kind of holding off. I don't know why, but we've been sort of getting a lot of these other things out of the way. But
it's such a
it's sacred.
big deal.
It's sacred.
It's
We
like,
gotta
how
make
do we
sure.
do this?
Yeah, we
we
gotta
wanna
make sure
do
we
it
know
right.
what we're doing. I think a little bit, and then we're gonna tackle
right,
the
but
shrine that is Star Trek.
but eventually, and there's a lot to talk about. I mean, there's going to be lots and lots.
This show could just be about Star Trek. I don't think we'd ever run out of ideas.
Easily,
video, right?
And there are some great channels that talk about Star Trek.
Yeah, I
and
just
stuff.
found one recently.
Yeah, Trek Actually.
Yeah, I'm really digging that.
Good show, dude. Yeah, we love that show. I've said everything that I pretty much need to say about this movie. But real quick, just to kind of end it, is there anything you guys want to see? So you enjoyed Ant-Man. You really enjoyed Ant-Man 2, essentially Ant-Man and the Wasp. There's a lot of talk and speculation, and it's not 100% confirmed, but it's pretty much known that there is going to be an Ant-Man 3. Have no idea what's going to be an Ant-Man 3 since everything is left kind of with a giant question mark with the whole Infinity War thing.
Yeah, we gotta figure that out first, I guess.
Right. So just pure speculation. Is there anything you want to see from Ant-Man 3?
Without knowing exactly what's going to happen, it's kind of hard to say. Because I would love to see him and the Wasp team up again, but I don't know who they would fight. Like, are they going to fight another crime boss? That'd be kind of fucking dumb. And I don't know. I want to see more of that tech that they had in this movie. But where is it going to go? Is he just going to be in the quantum realm now and kind of?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that because they have the quantum realm and all the possibilities of that, and all the possibilities of interdimensional phasing, time travel, all that kind of stuff. I mean, like I said, Cassie does turn into a superhero at some point. Could that factor in? Would you be, maybe the next Ant-Man movie is set several years down the line, What about you? What would you like to see?
I am kind of wanting it to include the Fantastic Four.
Oh.
I did my research.
Yeah, that's good
Where
thinking.
he teams up with the Human Torch, She-Hulk, and
Namorita. Yeah.
Namorita?
Prince Namor, the Submariner, and then there's Namorita.
Now I know. Okay.
Okay.
So I would like to
Submariner.
see that, where they have to do that because the regular Fantastic Four are stuck in the negative zone, which is in the part of the quantum realm, correct?
Yeah. Oh.
So, and that's kind of leads to what happens to Ant-Man, which creates stature.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that would be a good next step
Without
for them
giving
to
away
go
too
to.
much there. Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that because you know that they are supposedly finally bringing the Fantastic Four into the Disney MCU.
I heard that, yeah.
I love
I
the
think it's a
Fantastic Four,
possibility.
man.
See,
They
yeah.
kind of fucked up with the movies, but I still enjoy watching the movies. But I just think those characters alone are just pretty badass.
Ready for this? I have never seen any of the Fantastic Four movies.
What?
Really?
None of them.
Really?
No, I take that back. I've seen one Fantastic Four movie.
Oh,
bad
The
one?
Roger Corman one from 1994, dude. That movie's amazing. I actually really like that movie. I mean, it's
that
bad.
hand wave scene at the end where they're just,
Yeah, dude.
and Have you seen that one, Megan?
I don't think I
it's
have.
it's worth seeing. You
It's
know
on
what?
YouTube, I think.
You know what? No, you know
Yeah.
what we're doing? I'm putting it out there right now. We're gonna get that movie, and we're gonna do kind of like your video game
Playthrough.
Like a
playthrough.
We're gonna do a
live
watch
We're gonna
through.
do a watch sit
Okay,
down, and the
that's-
three of
that's
us
a
are
good
gonna
idea.
sit and watch it on YouTube.
You're gonna
and
watch us watching it.
We're gonna it's gonna be like Mystery Science Theater, and we're certainly not coming up with anything new. I'm not purporting that, but it's gonna be funny because oh my God, wait till you see this movie. It's bad, but it's awesome though. There's elements of that movie that's fucking could have been awesome.
Yeah. Like the Thing costume was actually like fucking
Doctor Doom
badass.
and Thing, there's cool elements of this fucking movie, but anyway, so yeah, that's good fucking call on that. Yeah, that would be interesting. What I'm gonna say, I'm not even gonna say this is what I want to see, but one thing that we could see, because there's been talk about it and speculation, is we might get a prequel type Ant-Man and Wasp movie of sorts, because Michael Douglas is lobbying hard, supposedly, reportedly. He has been lobbying hard after seeing what they can do with the de-aging technology,
Yeah.
where
This movie did a really good job with that, man.
what's the name of the company that technology, Lola or whatever it is that they do that? I think it's called Lola is the effects company that does that, and good fucking job. But since they can do that and everything so well now, he's saying, let's do an original Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, the original Ant-Man and Wasp movie, and have Michelle Pfeiffer and I in it as the main stars. And I'm like, at first I go, I don't know. But then I think about it and I'm like, actually, that could be kind of badass if they do it well, man. Like, how cool would it be to see young Michael Douglas and young Michelle Pfeiffer playing two major, in a big, huge budget superhero movie? Like, I would have loved to seen that back in 1988. You know what I mean? But now we would get it, 30 some odd years later. And that was when I was talking about my callback thing. Maybe they are thinking about doing something like that. And that's why they just kind of briefly introduced the Egghead character.
Oh, so they're gonna go back to it.
Go back to
Explain
that and
off.
have Egghead be
The
in
bad
that
guy.
and be the bad guy, because that would work. Because he was that was, and they could get more into that story of all that and everything. So now I'm kind of knowing all that, I'm sort of actually, I would love to see more of our characters, the ex-cons and Scott Lang and all that. I'd love to see that, and I hope we do see that. But depending on what happens post-Snapcture and all that shit, post-Avengers 4, if that can't happen for some reason because certain characters don't come back or are just gone, then yeah, man, I could be down with a prequel done, if it's done like that. I wouldn't want a prequel if it's we're going to get some other actors. It's no.
Yeah.
It's got to be that.
Yeah, it's got to be
with
them.
with the de-aging and all that stuff. I want to see
It'd be
that.
expensive,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, but
the
it
whole
would be
movie's in
expensive.
it.
But at the same time, you're talking about a superhero movie starring Michelle Pfeiffer and Michael Douglas. That's big fucking shit, man. I think it'd be worth it personally. But
And we know the ending already.
yeah.
True.
But sometimes, sometimes prequels, a lot of times prequels are bad.
Yeah.
But sometimes prequels are good. Rogue One.
Excellent.
Excellent movie, man. And you knew how that was going to end essentially, but it was done right. I think that's it. I think we've said all that needs to be said. And with that being said, we will be back soon. We want you to check back soon because we're going to have another video out where we are going to talk more about the MCU, specifically about Avengers 4, and about things that might be happening, are happening, could be happening. We're going to be talking a little bit about that.
A lot of happenings.
Lots of happenings. It's a happening, folks. What's happening? I'm Rerun. That's Dwayne. This is Raj.
Nice seeing you.
Yeah, we out. So I think it's time. We need to go into let's go into the
We got to go subatomic, bro.
We gotta go subatomic. Yeah, you never go subatomic. But us nasty bastards, we go
We're going
subatomic.
subatomic.
So